There's not a lot new in Middle East strife, but it is another case of just a few things. It doesn't take much for the powder keg to go off. And when I say it doesn't take much, of course, the loss of life is always greater for those who have to endure the pain of it. But for the rest of us in the world, we say, really, are you going to have an explosive situation between two groups of people, Palestinians and Israelis, because of the loss of life? And yes, we have in Chicago, what did we have over the weekend? 11 people murdered and 60 people shot. But we don't have the whole city in an uprising, but my goodness, they certainly have these kind of struggles in the Middle East. Dr. Glen Duerr is Assistant Professor of International Studies, and he's our guest, and he's at Cedarville University in Cedarville, Ohio. Talk to me about ISIS. I think many people are feeling, wow, within the last year, we're hearing an awful lot about this group, but it didn't seem like we heard much of anything about them a year ago.
Indeed. ISIS stands for the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. It has other names, but that's the most succinct. And it broke away from Al-Qaeda at the beginning of the year, which is why we haven't heard much about them, really. We could think of Al-Qaeda's involvement in Iraq and then elsewhere, notably Syria. So it's an offshoot of Al-Qaeda, and their central goal is to create what's known as an Islamic caliphate, a historic kind of empire that would largely follow historic empires of the past. And so right now it's concentrated in Iraq and Syria. They've taken advantage of the conflicts and state weakness in both of those countries and have managed to take over a number of key cities across really the eastern part of Syria and into the west and north of Iraq.
Should we be concerned enough to do something more aggressively in Iraq than we're currently doing?
I think so. The United States government has sent 300 observers to Iraq to try and act against ISIS and to assist the Iraqi military. I think it requires a bit more of a response. Obviously, there's a pretty significant reticence on the part of the American people to get involved militarily in Iraq right now, but I think if it goes on much longer and gets much worse, we may become embroiled anyway. So it's a very difficult situation. There's a difficult decision that has to be made here.
Now, over the weekend, I heard that there are still a number of Iraqis that believe that their military can actually stop ISIS from advances in Baghdad. Do you have that same confidence?
I see some signs of progress on the part of the Iraqi military in places like Tikrit